Hari Om. Um, my name is Radha Krishna, and I live here in San Diego. And we are a small group today, which is all right, perfectly all right, because it's a chance for us to have a mutually beneficial discussion as opposed to just words that flow through. This is the second part of the discussion on Kenopanishad, first verse. And I will spend just a couple of minutes, not more than 2 minutes, describing what we did in the last session, and follow up with a description of what we will do in this session, after which we can say the first verse is fully closed, at least from a student's perspective. So what we did last time is we looked at the Kenopanishad. And it's a very simple mantra, but before doing the mantra itself, just 2 lines, let us do a little bit of a peace invocation. Om Karacharana Kritam Vakkayajam Karmajam Va Shravananayanajam Va Manasam Va Paradham Vihitam Avihitam Va Sarvametat Kshamasva Jaya Jaya Karunabdhe Shri Mahadeva Shambho. Very common shloka. Young children learn it in school. And the reason for bringing this here, of course, is because it addresses the body, the mind, the intellect, and what we may have done and not have done, willingly, unknowingly. I particularly like it because every time I make an effort, such as this conversation, it takes a significant amount of preparation and, dare I say, a significant amount of self-purification. It's almost like Kshira Sagara Mathana. When you do that, immediately thereafter, poison up wells. And this is reality amongst all of us. We know this. We put in a tremendous effort, then somehow you slip. You put a tremendous effort, somehow you slip. And that's why this invocation of asking for forgiveness is so very, very apropos for this kind of setting. Let's jump straight into the Kenopanishad. Om Kene Shitam Patati Preshitam Manaha Kena Pranaha Prathamaha Praiti Yuktaha Kene Shitam Vachamimam Vadanti Chakshushrotram ka udevo yunakti. Again, as I said last time, just 2 lines, 4 half lines, 4 small thoughts, very similar thoughts. Asking, what is it that propels the mind? What is it by whose mere wish the mind, thoughts arise and fall upon their objects? Asking, what is it that enjoined with which the prana, the breath and circulation arise? What is it with which all of us, you, me, the way we are talking right now, we speak, vacham, we share words, we communicate? What is it that prompts these? Lastly, chakshuhu, shrotram, your perception. What God drives these forth, impels these? We will not go back over what we did last time, but the summary is, it was an admiration of the student to see how good his question was and how hard his question was. And to assess how good the question was and how hard the question was, we left some things hanging. So we said the student is not asking about his mind. The student is not asking, who am I? The student is not asking, what is my mind? He is not asking, what is speech? He is not asking, what is perception? He is asking, what is the underlying factor below all of these? Now, the underlying factor in our tradition we call Brahman will be taught to us by our teachers. But as students, we can make sure all these questions that normally arise in our mind can be set aside. So we can be like this ideal student. So we do not go to a teacher asking what is the mind. So we do not go to a teacher and ask what is the breath. Because the way the shloka is written, that is something you and I can do ourselves. We cannot go beyond that, which is why our student has gone to his teacher to ask what is behind all of this. But the ordinary questions we should be able to answer ourselves with self-reflection. So this is no different than what many of our teachers have said. Swami Chinmayananda, I can remember, I can shut my eyes, I can see him, he's passed away for 2 decades now. I can see him clearly saying, think, not just listen. He wants us to think. Swami Chidananda, I can remember quite clearly about 2 or 3 months ago, in his very soft way, gentle way, he said, you must meditate every day at a fixed time. There is an order, no less than that, but in his own soft way. So our teachers are saying the same thing. There are many, many things we can solve ourselves. So we prepare ourselves to understand and perhaps realize the higher truth that is in our tradition. Now, one more thing. I said I'll make it a to and fro discussion kind of session because we are all in this together. Last time we asked questions such as, what is the mind, what propels the mind, etc. Ask questions like, is the God that propels hearing or seeing, is that God the same as the God that propels the mind? We don't know. He doesn't know. So those kind of questions we can answer ourselves. We just need patience, sit down, think, meditate regularly as directed by Swami Chidananda Ji. Also, I briefly mentioned last time, gave some examples, how modern science helps us in this effort. Modern science about the brain, about thoughts, about happiness, all of these things are useful to us. But one thing we should be careful about in modern science, try to dissect, break down, give each phenomenon a name, each form a name, bring it down to its minuscule level. But what we are looking for here is not such dissection and portion by portion. We will do that later today. But we should remember, we are looking for the overall picture. We are looking for the one Brahman that is behind it all. I'd like to give an example of a tree. Where this example came from, I don't know. But this morning, I sleep in my backyard when my family is not at home, under the sky. I woke up looking at an avocado tree in my backyard, and this example came. So with such force, I felt I had to share with you. This is an example that demonstrates how we are looking for the whole. So perhaps 30 years ago, and where I live, there's not much water. Trees don't grow very big. It's just a different kind of place. 30 years ago, we planted an avocado tree, and after about 3 or 4 years, there was a severe windstorm. We have wind, not rain, and the tree was knocked over. Young tree, maybe about after 4 or 5 years, it was only about 6 feet or so. The roots had come out. So rather than give up on it, which there's no reason to, we righted the tree. I tied it down to a stake, made sure its roots were in touch with the soil. It's an affection that you have for trees and gardens. All human beings do, and I particularly enjoy and love trees and gardens and shrubs. The tree propagated its roots, but it was inclined, and not a small inclination, maybe about 20 degrees or so off the vertical, 30 degrees off the vertical, and I had tied it down to hold the stake. But over the years, this slanted tree, this tree was an incline, grew a second branch. And the second branch was as sturdy as the first. It was a split. And now when you sit back and watch, the branches are perfectly split, and the weight of the tree is aligned so that I could remove the rope. Now let's stop and think what has happened. The tree, what mind does it have, and what prompts this mind? What senses does it have, and what prompts or what operates those senses? We won't go to feelings, we'll go to those kind of things. But it's a simple tree, so it's possible to understand. If you shut your eyes, this is a tree right now that's perfectly balanced. How did it know? How did it sense the direction of gravity? What perception did it have? What mind calculated the exact perfect balance that I no longer need to support it, it supports itself? What is that mind? So if you have love trees, and I always touch them when I can, I really like them, the affection I felt for this tree is phenomenal. Where is its mind? It does not have a brain, but it has a mind that calculated and said, this is what I need to do, this is how I need to grow. What is the mind that drives its prana, the sap that runs from the root up to the leaves? What is the mind that operates its prana, which is the photosynthesis? What are the sense organs that allow you to decide which direction is gravity and how it should be balanced against gravity? The tree is a beautiful example because it does not have a brain, it does not have a heart, it does not have a stomach, unlike us as separate organs. It has different types of cells, no doubt about it, but it has cells, and it's easy to appreciate that in and through every one of the cells is a living Brahman. The mind of the tree is distributed from its roots all the way to its leaves. Every cell owns its portion of Brahman. The tree is intelligent enough to decide how to perfectly balance itself. Its intelligence resides in every cell of that tree. The tree has prana, the sap flows through it so that every cell receives its nutrition and can perform its function. Here is a holistic view, and I do this, I did it this morning, I sat out there, shut my eyes, looked at the tree, and affection for the tree just poured out of my heart. So we're not going to try to say that as students, we'll be able to understand the Brahman behind a human being. That's a little difficult to do. We are going to try to understand the mind, the breath, the senses. But keeping in our mind the unity behind it all is what we seek and prayerfully hope that a teacher will teach us someday. So at this point, I'd like to put out an outline for the lecture. And it's very, very, very simple. There it is. And Ranjan tells me that, Desai tells me that this should be visible to you. So this is only a slide. There's nothing more than this. So what we're saying is, the shloka says, what propels the mind? The first three, which I put with the parentheses there, the first three address the mind. The shloka talks about prana, so who breathes. Talks about vacham, who speaks. And talks about shrotraha, chakshuhu, perception. And those are the last three. Nothing extraordinary here, taken straight from the shloka. And our job is to try to solve all those questions that normally arise in our minds so that we can hopefully, which is feasible to do, and hopefully become like that student who was able to approach his teacher with the hardest of hardest questions. So how will we do it? Through introspection. First, we'll take each of these things, we'll try to describe it as best as we can. Then we'll examine it. Just describe it and examine it. What is it? How does it relate to the universe? What can we learn from the relationship with the universe? And also as we go along, we'll find uniformly true impermanence. There's nothing permanent about that particular aspect of ourselves that we're going to study. And lastly, the question we'll ask, what impels thought? What impels speech? We cannot find the ultimate answer. It's not easy. It's something that's to be realized with the help of a teacher. But we can address some of the more obvious sources. We think that, hey, this is causes this kind of thought, or this causes breath. We can address some of the obvious causes and set them aside. So this is how we prepare ourselves for the teacher. Quite frankly, if we do not do this, when the teacher speaks, we will not appreciate what he or she is saying. The first shloka of Kenopanishad, to me, is overpowering. It's just so demanding in what it requires of us. But I was taught the entire Upanishad. If you look at the second shloka, the first reaction I had when I heard it, when I was much younger, is I wanted more. This is not a real answer. It says, Shrotrasya Shrotram Manaso Manoyat, the ear of the ear, the mind of the mind. That is what you seek. Vachoha Vacham, the voice of the voice. It's not easy to understand. And with reflection, we can begin to appreciate it, and we won't toss it aside as being superficial with reflection. So let us focus on the first part, which is what we know, which is how to be a better student. So the first parenthesis that we have there, which says, addresses the mind. I try to think through it because it's difficult. Even that's difficult. So who am I? Am I the one who thinks? Am I the one who feels? Am I the one who remembers? I couldn't think of anything else associated with the mind. Okay. So let's focus on that. So it'll be a little dry on the mind. It'll be much more interesting on the breath and the speech because of the linkage to the universe. But it is our job to put these things aside. So I recently went to a Buddhist workshop where we talked about the mind they consider to be another sense organ, just like the eyes are a sense organ. And the mind, the objects of the mind are thoughts. It was very powerful imagery for me. The mind, the thoughts, of course, are sustained physically somehow by the brain. They're sustained by the flow of blood through the brain, of nutrients through the blood to the brain. So prana sustains the mind, the brain, which sustains thoughts. Everything that we see here, prana, the brain, physical matter, obeys the laws of physics. There's conservation of energy. Suppose you have neural activity here, electrical activity in your brain. It demands energy. There's conservation of mass. If you hit it, Newton's, you understand what I mean. Force with MA, there will be pain. That you will feel it in the matter. And what is this brain, this mind? What are these thoughts that somehow appear to be non-physical? Something else we need to observe. You cannot disassociate thoughts from words. Try as hard as you can, in meditation we do try, to bring the image of Sri Ram in front of your mind. The only way you can maintain ekagrata is by using words as you go through every part of that image. Thoughts are almost impossible to disassociate from words, and words are speech. Now you see why I talked about holism. We're going to talk about thoughts, but speech comes in. Images come in, which is sight. So they're all integrated. There's a holistic picture. But let's talk about thoughts. I recently went to listen to a lecture by a principal of the College of Theology at Durham University in the UK. There's Cambridge, Oxford, and Durham. Those are the big three universities. And he asked me to think, I was chatting with him at lunch, and he said, the marvel of the universe, it is so huge. We don't even know how big it is. We don't know how much matter there is. It's so huge, the number of stars and the number of universes. It's so huge. It is so small, the tiniest subatomic particle. The range of scales is phenomenal. And guess what? Thoughts allow us to appreciate this range of scale. And then he said, step back, close your eyes, and marvel at this phenomenon. These strange thoughts that are floating, that appear to be non-physical, floating in your physical brain, somehow can comprehend the external universe. It's almost as if God has planted the seed in you to appreciate the order outside. If you can conceive Newton's laws in your brain, and you observe that the universe obeys those laws, that is a miracle. If you can conceive quantum mechanics, and you observe quantum mechanical phenomena out in the universe, that's a miracle. There's a tight connection between your thoughts and the universe. Something else about thoughts. When we sit in meditation, thoughts come up, who knows from where. And the only way we know how to query thoughts is with other thoughts. We can examine ourselves. And once we organize our thoughts about a subject, we claim we know it. And that's not true. I can organize my mind, my thoughts, to say, this is water flowing from a tap. I can see the wetness, I can feel the... But do I know the essence of water? Absolutely not. I know Ranjan Desai from these telecons, from these webinars. I met him once before and listened to him when he was hosting something else, another webinar. I know his name, I know his voice. We have chatted a bit about a few things. But do I know his essence? The answer is no. So when can I say I know something? We seem to be a little shallow when we say that. When we organize thoughts and say, oh, this is a bottle, this is a wallet, this is a badge, we say, oh, we know it. So it's a little shallow. You've got to be careful. Do I know the essence of the bottle? Do I identify with the essence of the bottle? It's called qualia in modern. Do you understand the quail, the essence of that object? Okay, so that is describe thoughts. Remember, we're trying to describe it. We're describing thoughts. We talked about how they seem to be floating around physical phenomena like the brain. They cannot be dissociated from words. There's an absolute miracle in which the way in which our thoughts can reach out into the smallest to the largest dimensions of the universe. It's a miracle. God has planted that in our capability. It's amazing. In that way, you can also always imagine that you're identifying your thoughts with the entire universe. You're trying to make them one, because this order that you perceive outside is the order you have created in your mind as a mathematical formula. We can query thoughts with other thoughts, and when can we say we know something? It's still not clear. This is a description. Next thing is we've got to examine thoughts. Thoughts are mere objects. They arise and they subside. They arise and they subside. They're not permanent. So the question is, what is it that's permanent? In which these thoughts arise? You should also be careful. Thoughts are not necessarily the truth. We are easily deluded. We can always think in wrong ways. We can deceive ourselves. Delusion is a thought phenomenon. And something we spent a lot of time on last time, this question of I and mine is our thoughts too. I won't get into that again. Now, What propels thoughts? This is the fundamental question. What propels it? What impels it? What creates the thoughts? The answer is we don't know. But we can try to, because we need a teacher. And we need to be at the level of the student in Kena Upanishad. We're not there as yet, hopefully. Perhaps some of us are, I'm not. You know that experiences can drive thoughts. If you burn your finger, it'll drive thoughts. If you're hungry, it'll drive thoughts. So you could say, can you really say the body is what causes thoughts to arrive? And the answer is no, because with yogic practice, you can ignore the body and still thoughts arise. Is it ultimate free will? You sit there and thoughts arise because you will it. What is you? Does the mind spontaneously, do thoughts erupt spontaneously? That seems to be our experience. You sit down in meditation, thoughts come. Where from? You don't know that they come. They prevent you from ekagrata. But in moments of quietude, you recognize there's an underlying quietude upon which thoughts arise. And we seek that underlying quietude. Whether that quietude is Brahman or not, I do not know, but we seek that. And the concept that we have right now is that quietude propels thoughts just by a mere wish. Feelings. We're going to spend some time in feelings and memory and stop, because we can do this ourselves. This is just an example of how we might improve ourselves. Feelings, we know what they are. They can lead to thoughts, but they're not thoughts. Feelings are often accompanied by twinges in the body. Your heart feels. You feel pain. You feel gravity in your gut. When you're falling, you feel no gravity inside you. Sense of touch inside you. Your organs have a sense of touch. But what we're really here for is to ask the very difficult question, what is the feeling of happiness? Because if you ask anybody, any young person, any old person, you and me, we're trying to seek happiness. Is that the goal of life, to seek a feeling of happiness? If so, we should know what happiness is. We should be able to query and ask and convince ourselves that we understand it. So there's a TED Talk recently that tracked about 800 people, only about 90 are left alive right now, over a period of 75 years. Tracked them with interviews to understand who is happy and who is not, and what makes them happy. This is not an interview of 800 people now asking, do you remember when you were happy? Not like that. Over the past 75 years, this is done by Harvard University. And they came up with a final thing saying, you're not going to be happy if you're rich, if you're famous. That's not the driver of happiness. The driver of happiness is healthy relationships and close relationships. In our world, in our Vedantic world, you can easily imagine a perfect human being, one who has realized Brahman, and how he would have such healthy, loving relationships to everyone around. Sarve Janah Sukhina Bhavantu. You can witness it when you listen to Swami Chidananda. He doesn't get irritated at any questions. And I've known him for many years, known him enough to call him Swami C, even though that might make some people queasy. But Swami C has been a very, very good friend and very, very kind over the years. I've noticed that. In our tradition, relationships will come, they will be healthy. But for us as students, the best we can understand happiness is a sense of contentment. A moment of peace where your minds are not running after something. This morning I went to the beach, went swimming in the ocean, diving through waves. I was contented. I was not looking at my watch to see when should I go home, when should I stop. Jumping through the wave with the water going through my ears. There was no thought in my mind at that instant. I was contented. I came away, the contentment lasted a few more hours, and I was happy. So maybe contentment is happiness. But we need to know what we are seeking. And happiness is a feeling. We need to spend time thinking about it. What is it? Let's examine them. We've done the first part kind of describing what feelings are. Examine it. Feelings are also transient. They're impermanent. They arise. A sense of happiness, a sense of hatred. They arise and they disappear. What is it they arise in? What causes a feeling of attraction? What causes a feeling of revulsion? Raga, Dvesha. So let's move to memory, and we'll stop after that because time is not enough to go through everything. There's some very beautiful examples, maybe some future date. What is memory? Memory is a repertoire of thoughts from the past. They may be pure images, but very quickly once the image comes, words, speech arises. So conceptually, it is said, I do not know, I'm not memories, when a thought occurs in your brain, particularly a pleasant thought or unpleasant thought, it creates a channel of neural activity in your brain. And that channel is easier to follow. It becomes a habit to follow that neural activity. So, it's like lightning. Once it strikes once, it's not true it doesn't strike twice at the same place. Once it strikes once, that ionized air, it can strike again through that channel in the atmosphere. It is easier for it to go down that channel. Okay? So, memories are certain thought processes that have occurred in the past that can be repeated easily because there's a preformed passage sequence of neural firings. But what causes that memory to arise and follow the path? Are memories stored somewhere, or is it just this easy path in the brain that is memory of storage, that is storage of memory? Is memory the same as karma? Don't know. But this addresses the first part. Describe it. Examine it. It is the memories about the past. It is transient. It's not permanent. Memory can be faulty, just like thoughts. Very faulty. It's not the truth with uppercase T. What propels memory? What propels that neural firing? What propels storage? What propels recollection? We do not know. Now, I want to step back because going through this process, it will take some time and it's not worthwhile. For me, this is my sadhana to study each of these, and I have, 7 more pages of thoughts on other topics. But this is my suggestion, my humble request, that as students, we need to set aside as many of these smaller questions as possible and focus on the question that the student in the Kena Upanishad has asked his teacher. When we are ready to ask that question, then we are ready to receive the teacher's teaching. Then we will understand Shrotrasya Shrotram Manaso Manoyat, which I cannot understand today. I can appreciate, I know it has depth, but I do not have the Aparoksha Anubhuti. There's so much more about speech, about prana, about digestion, etc. But in closing, what we have done today is logical arguments. Let us remember, scientific study, logical arguments are not going to lead us to the final solution. True knowledge is that which calms us, calms the senses. Tajnanam prashamakaram yadindriyanam. That is knowledge prashamakaram, which brings shanti to our senses. Tagnyeyam yat upanishatsu nishchitartham, that is to be known, which has been nishchitartham, which is the nishchitartham is the clear essence of the Upanishads. That is our goal. Hey, the talk is done. I want to open up one question that's puzzling me, and perhaps others in our group may be able to help also, so we'll open it up for discussion. The question that's puzzling me is this. So some recent studies have said there's a time lag in a process of perception. When you see something, by the time it's processed and by the time your brain acknowledges it, it's about 80 milliseconds. Similarly, when we look at the background radiation out in the sky, or you look at some star that's several hundred billion light years away, the exaggeration, you're looking at the light that emanated from the star 100 million years ago. You're looking at the past. In perception, when you are watching me on the screen, what you are seeing is not now, but something that's in the past. So that leads me to question, what is the present? Perhaps if you set aside perception, set aside all these thoughts which are all in the past, all linked to the past. Even perception, what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing now is in the past. And perhaps the present is Brahman. I don't know. But it's an interesting line of thought. Anyway, with that, I'll open it up. Please, any questions, any open discussion? I would most fervently hope we can talk to each other as friends, as a study group. So I think you have a icon that says raise your hand, and I can unmute you. And we go from there. I see Gopal Krishnan, Srinath Kulambi, Yaginarayan, Venkatramani Yaginarayan, and of course we have Ranjan Desai. Or we could together just introduce ourselves, become friends, learn about each other a little bit. So let's see. Ranjan, could you talk about yourself to begin with?
Sure. It was an excellent presentation again, Radhakshanji. It was nice. I mean, the questions that you have raised, and it's kind of makes you think into the directions and all. And even I'm also a beginner in the journey, and I'm no way near knowing who Brahman is and all. So it's interesting presentation. Thank you for it again. To give a little bit overview of who I've been helping in the webinar. I've known Swami Chidanandaji for a very long time, since he was in San Jose. And I've attended Swami Chinmayan's lectures also earlier. And I do know Swami Tejavanji also, pretty much. I'm involved with Chinmay Mission a lot. And San Jose here in Silicon Valley for more than half my lifetime here. So it's been a very long time. I'm a software engineer by profession.
You're a software engineer by profession?
Exactly.
So it's good. You know Swami Tejaman, and then we used to call him Swami T, if you remember that. So I understand he's handed over the Chinmay Mission global headship to somebody else, to Swami.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So now he has more time to spend in giving lectures and things of that nature.
That's right. That's correct.
So attendees, Gopal Krishnan, would you care to tell us something?
Settle in Bombay.
Okay.
I'm 82 years old.
Oh, namaskar.
And I don't know any Vedanta much. All the Vedanta I learned is from Swami Chidananda. There is no systematic study or things like that. I used to love his talks, listen and wonder whatever he says. I built whatever little bit of that, and that is the only thing which I am going forward. So I have one basic question. You all people inquire, think, analyze, try to understand. This is one way of doing it. But for me, just leave everything and just in a mood of surrender. Then I think something inside you tells you, answers all these questions one by one. And I don't know, I mean, of course, still you can ask the question, what is the intelligence inside you? But if you have a guru who is a personification of your intelligence, you appeal to him, please, activate my thinking whenever it is required.
Yes.
And whenever it is not required, I don't have to bother about that. I just live my normal life and be happy.
Yes.
And whenever something is bothering you, please trigger my thinking.
Okay.
This is my approach, but...
No, I think it's wonderful. I think it's wonderful. So, there's no question that surrender to a teacher is more powerful than anything else. Even our perfect student in Kena Upanishad surrenders to his teacher and asks his question. In other Kaivalya Upanishad, etc., you see a similar surrender. So, the question simply is, not everyone has that capacity. So maybe there's something else we can do, and that's all we can. And you know, bhakti is. I'm very jealous of people who are so capable of bhakti. And Swami Tejavan, go ahead.
Yeah, it's not exactly a bhakti or something like that. It just there is no struggling or something like that. What is required for you? Of course, you can still ask who triggers your thinking. I don't want to ask that question at all.
Understood.
It's a faith, more a faith than a bhakti. It's 100% faith. That is a super intelligence.
Right.
Trigger your thinking whenever you genuinely and sincerely take report to that.
Thank you for sharing. So I'm going to go to Srinath Kulambi. Can you say something about yourself and help us meet you?
Yeah, namaste, everyone. This is a nice talk, what you started today, and unfortunately I did not attend your first webinar. This webinar really interesting. The reason is, most of the time in the webinars we hear speakers go by the scriptures, but you straight away you started giving all the questions, and those are the questions I too have it, taking the example of that tree, how it balances. And also I see the tree, if you look at the tree from the top to the bottom, you can see the triangle shape. Some of them, most of them triangle or even circle. How does it know on the right side of the branch has this length like 2 feet or 3 feet? The left side also has the same, almost same height, the same length, and it is like a circumference, and everything is a kind of symmetry is there. So that is always a question for me, and I can't get answer, I guess, real answer. And similar questions whatever you raised today, it's really very interesting, and I don't know who can answer real answer.
Swami Chidananda has lectures on Upanishads, and he's thing. The answer, and I think it's important, very important point we should keep in mind, that the answer will ring a bell in your brain only when you're ready. Because we can open up the second shloka right now and talk about it. But that's not the purpose. That's not the intention. The second shloka should be good enough to help you realize Brahman. Should be good enough, but it's not good enough because we're not yet ready.
Not ready, yeah.
So and I listened to, for example, I listened to Dalai Lama a couple of times. He tells me, at least from what I gathered, he sleeps 9 hours a day. every
Oh,
night, 9 hours.
oh.
Okay, so I think maybe night 7 hours and 2 hours in the afternoon. So 9 hours a day. He said, I need to get that sleep, and he meditates. Meditates meaning does prayer, meditate, puja, meditation, etc. for 4 to 5 hours a day. That makes it 14 hours.
Right. Yeah. Almost half of the day is gone.
Right. And then remaining 10 hours, you need at least 2 hours for basic, ablutions and things of that nature. So he says, you can have me for 8 hours a day. What a wonderful perspective on life. Now, if you live such a life, perhaps it'll be easier to appreciate, purity wise, perhaps it'll be easier to appreciate the second shloka. I don't know. Let us see. So where are you located?
I'm in New Jersey.
Okay.
I live in New Jersey, and I've been attending a webinar, and I know Swami Chidananda for a long time, and he is the one who introduced me to this Vedanta and Bhagavad Gita. I did not know much about it before, but he was he is the first guru for me, and I still have to. I'm still very behind compared to all of you. And
no. No, there's no forward or behind. It's just each has a different path. Yeah. Let me ask Venkatramani, would you care to...
I want to add one more thing. Actually, Srinathji is one of the person who has started webinars also. I mean, he has helped us get this done. So he's very much involved in the organizing committee also here.
This is Srinath, is it, or someone else? Who's
Srinath. This is Ranjan.
Achha.
Ranjan, I just wanted to add one more thing about Srinath Kodambiji. I mean, he's one of the one who started the webinars. He's his brainchild, actually. He's the one. Behind it.
Yeah. Let's talk to Venkatramani. Could you please introduce yourself and tell us?
Yeah. I'm a retired professor of electronics.
Wow.
Settled in Pondicherry. But presently I have come to USA. I'm in Palo Alto with my son on a short visit.
Wonderful.
Myself and my wife Parvati, both of us are listening. So we got into Chinmaya activities from 2014. We've attended a few camps, and regularly we listen to talks on Tattva Bodha, Bhagavad Gita by Swami Paramarthananda, who is also from the Chinmaya movement.
Excellent.
So, and we are trying to get small introduction to Vedanta. Hopefully, we'll move forward a little with that. And your lecture, because your question answer type, this was somewhat similar to lectures of Mr. Jittu Krishnamurti, J. Krishnamurti, where he repeatedly asked questions. You were asking questions and making us think. So I think that is very good. But this concept of memory you were telling about, because we remember many things which happened long back in childhood, whatever happened, many things we remember. But if there is no storage, if there is only a path, how does it come into that path? From where it comes?
That's right. So that's the question, right? Keneshitam, by desired, wished, impelled by what does that thought arise? That's the question. Yes. Exactly. We also have Rita ji. Do you care to introduce yourself, please? I'm not sure who that is, Rita Singh, but nonetheless. So with that, we will close. And as always, let each of us have come through different paths. I'm sorry. Let me. Rita ji, were you speaking? Okay. We've come with different paths, so let us just bow down to our individual teachers, whoever we have memory for, whatever path we choose, and spend at least a minute in prayer, silent prayer. Hari Om. Thank you very much. Thank you to Fawai and Ranjan Desai and everyone else, Vibhaji, Swami Chidananda. These are tremendous opportunities for us to meet each other and discuss these issues. Hari Om. Namaste.
Hari Om. Thank you very much, Radhakrishnan.
Thank you. Can you please close it? Ranjan Desai, I don't know how to do it.
I'll close it.
Thank you.